boys and girls. It's author-illustrator Andrea Beck here again with you today for Storytime with Andrea. And look who's with me, my favorite buddies, Elliot Moose and Pierre Poof. And we love stories, we love snuggling, we love our little quiet time with books, don't we, Pierre? We sure do. And today that's exactly what we're going to do. And we're going to read a different story today. Elliot Gets Stuck. He really does look like he's stuck in something there, doesn't he? But before we get started, I haven't forgotten, Pierre. I know what you want. He wants to see if he can sniff out Sparky and Lou out there. I wonder if they're out there today. Do you know that dogs' sniffers are even better than their eyes? They can smell better than they can see. That's true. So if Sparky and Lou are out there, I'm sure you can smell them. And you know who else wants to say hi? Who else? Elliot. He wants to say hi to all his buddies out there. But Elliot always likes to take a really good look. He looks out there, he can spot some of his friends. I wonder if he saw Asher out there today, or if he sees Asher out there. Can you see Asher? Yeah, Asher was one of your first friends, wasn't he? And then Ares came along, and then Ayla and Oren, some of your buddies, and then Laura and Luisa who live in Brazil. Right. And who else is out there? How about Samantha? How about Cameron? How about Carolyn? How about Joellen? All of our favorite people in the world. How about Catherine and Meredith and Ashley? Yes. Oh, look, Pierce. He's wagging his tail. He's so excited at the thought of those people. Anyway, okay, enough of that. There's lots of our friends out there today. Are you our friends? Do you want to be our friends? We want to be your friends, don't we? We're story friends. Here we go. Elliot Gets Stuck. Here's the first page, the title page. Elliot Gets Stuck, written and illustrated by Andrea Beck. And there's a dedication there for Jack, very special friend of ours. Okay, let's dig into our story. Elliot Moose woke up with his nose twitching and his feet itching. He ran to the big front door and looked through the letter slot and grinned from ear to ear. It's spring, he whooped. The snow was melting. There were rivers and puddles everywhere. He and Socks could build dams and race twig boats today. That's what I used to do when I was a little girl. Socks, called Elliot. Spring is here. Let's go outside. He hurried to the kitchen and pushed on the doggy door, but it was still dammed with ice. They would have to use the big front door. Come on, Socks, Elliot shouted as he ran back. I need help with the door. I guess it's not so easy for a little moose to open a big door like that, eh? Skidding to a stop, Elliot looked up at the door handle. He wished he could climb like Socks. Then he wouldn't have to wait for her to turn the knob. Elliot took another peek through the letter slot. Then he poked his nose into the opening and twisted and turned until he managed to squeeze his whole head through. What a glorious day. Oh, there's some little flowers poking up through the snow. Elliot wormed his arms through the slot and began to pull himself forward. Wouldn't Socks be surprised if he got out by himself? Elliot took a deep breath and pulled harder. He managed to wriggle his shoulders through, but his tummy just wouldn't fit. He'd have to wait for help after all. Oh, he's half out. Look at all the birds on the porch. Elliot was enjoying the fresh air when he heard a giggle. What are you doing? Called Socks. I was in a hurry, explained Elliot. I tried to take a shortcut. I can push you through if you like, offered Socks. Yes, please, said Elliot. But when Socks pushed, Elliot barely moved. Try again, he said. Socks used her shoulder this time and pushed very hard. But that only wedged Elliot tighter. Oh. Turn the page. I'm going to pull you back in, said Socks. She grabbed Elliot's feet and tugged. His tummy came free, but the rest of him did not. Can you pull any harder? He asked. Socks pulled with all her might, but Elliot did not budge. He was stuck. I'll get help, said Socks, and she hurried off to find Amy. Amy held on to Socks, and Socks held on to Elliot. They pulled and pulled with all their might, but Elliot didn't move. Can you pull any harder? He asked. Amy went to get Paisley. Paisley held on to Amy, Amy held on to Socks, and Socks held on to Elliot. They pulled and pulled with all their might, but Elliot still didn't move. You need to pull harder, he said. Paisley went to get Angel. Angel held on to Paisley, Paisley held on to Amy, Amy held on to Socks, and Socks held on to Elliot. They pulled and pulled with all their might, but Elliot still did not come free. Now he was worried. Please pull harder, he begged. Hang on, Elliot, said Angel. She went to get the cubs. The cubs held on to Angel, who held on to Paisley, who held on to Amy, who held on to Socks. Socks held on to Elliot. They pulled and pulled with all of their might, but it was no use. I'm going to be stuck here forever, Elliot cried. Socks gave him a gentle pat. Don't worry, Elliot. We'll think of something. The friends began to talk. Elliot overheard the words scissors, saw, and grease. What were they planning? He stewed for a moment. How had he fit into the slot? Suddenly Elliot grinned. I wriggled, he said, wriggling, and I wormed. Slowly but surely, Elliot wormed his arms back through the slot. I twisted, he said, twisting, and I turned. Elliot turned his long nose sideways and pulled, but he did not come free. Elliot braced his paws against the door and took a deep breath. I wriggled and I wormed, I twisted and I turned, he said, pushing with all of his might. Pop! Elliot flew backward through the air and landed next to his friends. Kerplop! Pop, kerplop. Elliot, how did you get out? Cried Socks. The same way I got in, laughed Elliot. Everyone cheered. Then Elliot jumped up. It's spring, he shouted. The sun is shining. The snow is melting. The birds are singing. Let's go outside. They all ran to find coats and boots. Then Socks turned the handle of the big front door, and Elliot, Socks, Amy, Paisley, Angel, and the cubs all went out to play. Here's the last page. They splashed in puddles, built pebble dams, and raced twig boats. It was a wonderful, warm first day of spring. Wow! And here we are waiting for spring, aren't we? Aren't we, Elliot? Won't it be nice when the warm sun comes out and starts to melt the snow and the little flowers pop up through the snow and the little rivulets of water start forming on the edge of the snow? Maybe we can get out and we can float some twig boats. Wouldn't that be fun, Pierre? Oh, I think that would be fun. I love going outside. Don't you guys love to play outside? Anyway, boys and girls, I hope you liked our story time today. And I hope you'll come back and see us again for another story time soon. Bye-bye. Bye. Oh, Billy wants to say goodbye. And Pierre wants to say goodbye too. Bye, everyone. It was nice sharing story time with you.